All right, so get ready. We're diving deep today into how biblical Christianity and Buddhism each look at luck, chance, and happiness. And get this, for the Christian side, we're using your collection of Bible Project videos on YouTube, those animated explainers,
Oh, wow. Using YouTube for theology, huh? That's definitely a new one for me. I'm curious to see how they tackle these big ideas.
Me too. We'll be focusing on Ecclesiastes, Job, and Proverbs. Then we'll switch gears to Buddhism. We'll be using the text you gave us and probably do a little extra research too, just to, really get into their whole view on karma and stuff.
That's quite the pairing, I gotta say. I mean, two very different systems of thought, right?
Mm-hmm.
But both trying to figure out this whole fate and happiness thing should be interesting.
Totally. So let's start with those Bible Project videos. First up, Ecclesiastes. The whole idea of hevel, sometimes it's translated as meaningless, but it's like way more complicated than that, right?
Yeah. If I remember correctly, Ecclesiastes is really all about how kind of pointless chasing after worldly stuff can be.
Exactly. And the video, it uses this metaphor of smoke to describe hevel. Like it's always changing, can't really grab hold of it, no matter how hard you work, how wise you are, even if you're super faithful, sometimes things just don't go your way. Like there's no guarantee.
Right. It definitely challenges that simple idea that if you do good things will happen. Like Proverbs is all about that wisdom leading to success, but Ecclesiastes comes in and is like, hold on a sec. Life's not always that neat and tidy.
And I like how the video brings in the whole context of wisdom literature in the Old Testament.
Yeah.
It's not saying to just give up and be all fatalistic. It's more like encouraging us to really understand how complicated life can be. And, realizing that we can't control everything is part of being wise.
Totally. Which brings us to that next video you picked about Job. Talk about a crash course in the randomness of suffering.
Oh man, poor Job. I mean, he loses everything, family, wealth, health, and his friends. They're all convinced he must have done something really bad to deserve all that.
Yeah.
But then the video makes it clear God himself says Job is blameless.
Yeah, it's a story that's messed with people for centuries. I mean, it forces us to face this question, why do bad things happen to good people? And what I find interesting is that the video doesn't try to give us some easy answer. Like, God never explains to Job exactly why all this is happening to him.
It's true. But there's that part, where God takes Job on this whirlwind tour of the universe. The video makes it so visually stunning. It's like God is saying, look, you're only human, your perspective is limited, just trust me, even if it doesn't make sense.
Powerful, right? It really gets at the mystery of faith. Job basically has to accept that there are things beyond his understanding, and that's okay.
Okay, so we've gone from the seeming pointlessness of worldly things in Ecclesiastes to this, like unfathomable suffering in Job.
Yeah.
Heavy stuff. We need a bit of that practical wisdom now, I think. Thankfully, you included Proverbs in the mix.
Proverbs, the Bible's guide to, living well, packed with advice for daily life. What's the video's take on that?
It basically presents Proverbs as this collection of observations about people, like what we're like and what happens because of the choices we make. And the video really emphasizes that, sure, following wisdom's path makes it more likely you'll have a good life, but it doesn't guarantee it. It's not about being certain, but more about understanding the odds.
Important distinction, yeah. Even Proverbs, with all its advice and focus on wisdom, it acknowledges that, you can't control everything. Life can still throw you a curveball, no matter how hard you try to do things right.
And I think the video really highlights this tension that exists within those wisdom books of the Bible. You've got Ecclesiastes struggling with meaninglessness, Job dealing with suffering he can't explain, and then you have Proverbs giving practical guidance. Not exactly a simple, clear-cut system, right? More like a tapestry of different perspectives.
And that tapestry really shaped the Christian worldview for a long time. But then you have these figures like Augustine who come along and shift things in a big way.
Oh yeah, Augustine brings in a whole new dimension to this idea of happiness. And the Bible Project video on that is really something. It explains how Augustine thought true happiness is impossible in this life. Like, it's just not attainable here and now.
And that completely changes how Christians understand suffering. Augustine saw suffering as a result of Adam and Eve's sin, the fall. Like, we inherit this flaw because of what they did. He argued that only through God's grace in the afterlife can we really experience true happiness.
Wow. Talk about a heavy concept.
Yeah.
It makes you think about responsibility in a whole new way.
Yeah.
Are we suffering because of our own choices, or are we paying for someone else's mistake? The whole question of free will and God's justice, it's a lot to wrap your head around.
It definitely adds another layer to those Old Testament books we were just talking about. Ecclesiastes and Job grapple with the mysteries of life and suffering within this world, but Augustine points us beyond that. He's saying that suffering ultimately finds its meaning and resolution in a transcendent realm.
So looking at these Bible Project videos, we see a really complex and, I don't know, multifaceted view of how Christians think about luck, chance, and happiness. It's not a simple set of answers, but more like a conversation. A conversation about good and evil, free will, and God's providence, earthly experience, and eternal hope.
And it's that complexity that makes it so fascinating to compare it with something like Buddhism, which is what we're going to do next. I'm really curious how Buddhism tackles these same questions.
Me too. Time to switch gears and explore how Buddhists see karma and how it shapes our lives. All right, so we've gone deep into the Judeo-Christian side of things, all thanks to those awesome Bible Project videos. Now let's switch gears. Time for some Buddhism. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it. I'm really intrigued to see where this goes. I mean, Buddhism has such a different flavor, right?
Totally. And when we talk about Buddhism, we can't ignore karma. It's like the concept, right?
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things that gets thrown around a lot, often in ways that maybe aren't quite accurate.
Oh, yeah. Big time. Like, in movies and stuff, it's usually all about instant payback, do something good, get rewarded, mess up, something bad happens to you. But I think Buddhism's view on karma is much deeper than that, isn't it?
Way deeper, for sure. So before we get into the Buddhist texts and all that, let's maybe clear up what karma actually means in that context. It's not like some cosmic scorekeeper up there, right? You don't get a promotion because you helped a little old lady cross the street in a past life.
No, not exactly. Although past actions do have an influence, Buddhism sees karma as this complex web of cause and effect. And it's not just about your actions, but your thoughts and intentions too, you know? Everything's connected, and it all shapes what you experience right now and in the future.
So it's less about fate, like everything's already decided, and more about us actively shaping our own reality through the choices we make.
Exactly. You're not just a puppet of destiny. Buddhism really emphasizes you being an active participant in your own life. Every single choice, every action, even every thought you have, it sets off this ripple effect. It's like you're creating your own path as you go.
Okay, I'm digging that. So you're basically building yourself with every action, every thought, every intention. That's pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. And the text you gave us, it goes into this beautifully. It talks about the 3 poisons, which are greed, ill will, and delusion. And in Buddhism, those are seen as the root causes of suffering.
3 poisons, huh? That sounds intense. But how do these poisons tie into karma and shaping our reality? Fill me in.
Well, think of it like this. Imagine getting trapped in a cycle of negative emotions and actions that hurt others. Buddhism would say that's you being driven by those 3 poisons. And the more you act on them, the more you reinforce those patterns in your life. So you're creating negative karma, which then leads to more suffering.
So it's not like some external force is punishing you. It's more like a natural consequence of your own actions. Actions that are fueled by these negative states of mind.
Exactly. It's about taking responsibility. But there's good news too. Just like negative actions create negative karma, doing positive things with good intentions, things like generosity, kindness, and wisdom, those create positive karma. And that leads to more well-being for you and everyone else. It's not about racking up points, but about changing yourself from the inside out. That's what the text really emphasizes.
So instead of obsessing over controlling things outside ourselves, Buddhism tells us to focus on mastering our inner world.
Exactly. The Buddhist path, it's all about mindfulness, being ethical, and having mental discipline. And by developing these qualities, we can break free from those cycles of suffering. We can create a reality that's more positive, more fulfilling, not just for ourselves, but for everybody.
You know, that reminds me of something we've talked about before on this show, those ancient Greek philosophies like Stoicism. They seem to be on a similar wavelength, right? Both of them emphasize mental training as the key to dealing with all the uncertainty that life throws at us.
Yeah, totally. It's amazing how these ideas, even though they come from such different cultures and time periods, they end up pointing in a similar direction. Both Buddhism and Stoicism, they're all about building inner strength, that sense of peace within yourself no matter what's happening outside.
So it's not about pretending that difficult things don't exist.
Yeah.
It's about learning how to deal with them in a skillful way. And like you said, it's about finding that peace and freedom inside yourself, regardless of what's going on in the world around you.
You got it. It's not easy, of course, but it's powerful stuff. And honestly, it's a message that goes beyond any one religion or philosophy. It speaks to something really deep about being human. we have this incredible ability to grow and transform ourselves.
So where does this leave our listener, the one who brought us these sources for our deep dive? We've explored two contrasting approaches, right? The biblical view, with its mix of wisdom, suffering, and divine grace, and then the Buddhist path, with its emphasis on karma, intention, and all that inner work. What's the takeaway here? It's been quite a journey, right? Exploring these two really different approaches to luck, chance, and happiness. I mean, biblical Christianity, Buddhism, they come from such different places, but it's fascinating how they both seem to point us in a similar direction.
It is, yeah. It shows you how universal these questions are, you know? We all want to understand why things happen the way they do and how to find happiness in this crazy world.
Totally.
And one of the things that really stood out for me was how both traditions emphasize the importance of what's going on inside us, you know? Like, they both seem to be saying that true fulfillment doesn't come from chasing luck or trying to force things to go our way. It's about something deeper.
Yeah, it's about changing ourselves, not the world around us. It's like both the Bible and those Buddhist teachings are saying, hey, life's going to be unpredictable. There will be good times and bad times, things you can control and things you can't.
Right. So instead of stressing out about all the things we can't control, we should focus on what we can control. Our thoughts, our emotions, our intentions, that's where the real power lies.
Absolutely. And it's not about pretending that everything's perfect or ignoring the tough stuff. It's about building that inner strength, that resilience, so you can handle whatever life throws at you.
Exactly. And I think that's a really empowering message, you know? It's about taking responsibility for our own happiness, not waiting for some external force to make things better, but realizing that we have the power to create change from within. And both traditions give us practical tools to do that, don't they? Like, remember those Bible Project videos on Proverbs? All that wisdom about making good choices, developing discernment. It's not about guaranteeing a perfect outcome, but about increasing the odds of living a good and meaningful life.
And on the Buddhist side, you've got things like mindfulness and meditation, practices that help you become more aware of your thoughts and feelings so you can break free from those negative patterns that just create more suffering.
Yeah, it's all about waking up, right? Seeing things more clearly and making choices that are in line with our deepest values.
And ultimately, I think that's what it all comes down to. Whether you find inspiration in the Bible, in Buddhist teachings, or in something else entirely, it's about recognizing that real happiness and fulfillment come from within.
It's about that inner journey of self-discovery, of cultivating those qualities that allow us to live more meaningful and fulfilling lives.
Well said. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, let's turn it over to you, our listener. What are you taking away from all of this? What resonated with you the most?
What sparked your curiosity? What new insights are you going to explore further?
And most importantly, how can you apply these teachings to your own life, starting today? Even a small step in the right direction can make a big difference. We'd love to hear your thoughts.
Thanks for joining us on this amazing journey of exploration. Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep diving deep.
See you next time.